All right, so my name is Gary Parker, and I teach math and computer stuff here at Blue Mountain Community College. So I'm going to switch over to share my screen and go over some of the beginning things and what I hope to achieve with this the training. So Eastern and the Eastern Oregon STEM Hub have teamed up with me, and so if you do 2 trainings and host your own hour of code in class or at your school, then you get a PDU for it, which is pretty awesome. And I've been doing hour of code since it started 4 or 5 years ago, and it's just fun to do. The general way I'm going to run the events are some statistics about coding in the United States, programming jobs, people that are in programming, why we should bother with hour of code. And then otherwise, once we go over that, we'll go into activities. There's a great how-to guide at Hour of Code or code.org, and they have a lot of great marketing tools to help get the word out to get people to come. And then from there, depending on people's level of ability doing coding stuff, my recommendation is you try at least 3 of the activities and then decide if you want to do 1 or 2 with a class or if you want to do a free-for-all in a lab. And I'll explain how I do each one of those. And that'll be with the style set up and getting helpers to do it. And BMCC can sometimes help get students there. Either our computer science students or our student ambassadors are often free to come help. And then I also teach math for elementary school teachers, and those students are always looking to get their foot in a school somewhere to just kind of play around with kids and get some experience in doing that. So at math.bluecc.edu, I have a page on coding. And just some details about that. Most parents want their students to be more computer literate, but very few schools offer much computer stuff. In bigger cities, there tend to be after-school programs that do it, but not in smaller towns like we have around here. So the more we can try and get these little events going once in a while, the more likely it'll become mainstream as time goes on. Maybe library programs or after-school programs. Computer science is kind of a pretty broad field. Pretty much any kind of manipulating a computer to do stuff is computer science, and programming is like the biggest area of that. Diversity is a big problem in computer science. I've got 2 daughters, and it really bothers me that there's very few women in technology fields, even though slight majority of the people on the planet and in the US are female. So we have very few women in high school computer courses, in university computer science programs, or even in the workforce itself. There's just not a lot of women. And so one thing I try to focus on is trying to get young females interested in programming. And there's a lot of cool activities with Hour of Code. Another big thing, finding a job that pays well is important. And in the last several years, there's been way more demand for computer science type people than there has been supply. So last year, 500,000 openings roughly, and there were only 43,000 graduates for those kinds of openings. And I believe that people can get their foot in the door with computer science with just an associate's degree, or even doing some computer work in high school, as long as they start early. So they don't necessarily have to have a bachelor's degree, although that's what they're talking about here. Okay, so Hour of Code has been going on for the last 4 or 5 years. It's an international effort put on by a lot of different companies, and it's all centered at code.org. So I'll bring that up here. Code.org has activities for Hour of Code, plus they have all kinds of computer science curriculum that's aimed at kids from elementary school, middle school, high school, and I teach a beginning computer class at college, and this is the kind of stuff I do there when I'm getting students started. Even though you might think a college student would get bored here after 1 course, there's enough stuff here to keep a reasonably intelligent college student busy for a year. Okay, so there's lots of good stuff here. So as far as kids go, I have an 11-year-old and a 16-year-old now. They've been doing this with me since Hour of Code started. They get to do new things every year, and they don't mind visiting some of the activities they did for the last 4 years because they still find them fun. So I just have some information here. This bit of text right here just kind of describes, if you want to tell another teacher what is Hour of Code and what they could do to get into it, this page here just has a brief introduction about who some of the players are in Hour of Code. So I'm on the events page here at the BMCC Math site. And then I have a link to the Hour of Code website. Now, there's different names, websites that you go to. Hour of Code and code.org are the same place. They're just two different names for the same website. So if you go to Hour of Code, that takes you to a part of code.org stuff. Code.org is bigger than that. They're constantly doing stuff. Although Hour of Code is generally aimed for that first full week of December, because that's International Computer Science Week, you can do it any time. So sometimes they'll do coding events in the summer. I did one last spring. I go into classrooms whenever a teacher asks. I come in and show kids stuff. And again, there's things for people at every age here. So that was kind of some of the why we should bother. Another big thing why, do you have a smartphone on you? Or a phone on you? Yeah. Okay, so you get a phone. A phone is a computer, right? My phone here is probably more powerful than the computer I bought when I got out of college 20 years ago, right? The screen is higher resolution, even though it's smaller. It has way more processing power. It's way faster. It has apps that were inconceivable back 20 years ago. So most of us are really good at using this technology, right? We can read it, but we don't know how to write it. And so that's what this is about, trying to get more computer literate. So we read and write language. We should be able to do a little bit more with technology because we use technology almost as much as we talk to one another these days. So having a better understanding about how technology works, I think is important, even if we're not going into a tech field, because we want everyone to be able to use the stuff we have in more responsible ways. So that's my spiel as to why Hour of Code. So let's start getting into it. So if you haven't already, let's hop over to the Hour of Code sites. Let's see, where did I put that one? Right here. So notice the URL I'm at here is hourofcode.us. There's also code.org. They are part of the same organization. They share pages. So everything at Hour of Code is on code.org, but code.org is the bigger set there. So most of the stuff I'm going to be working you with is going to emanate from the Hour of Code website. But if you end up ever at code.org, it's almost the same place. So the stuff we're going to focus on here, they have it very well organized. We have our activities, so let's check out the activities page. Can you help get to that one? Just say, you don't need to do that. Oh, did it really? Oh, okay. So every year, the number of activities that they have here seems to double. A new one this year is create your own Google logo. So you probably notice pretty much every day you go to Google, the logo is a little bit different and it's often interactive. And so this is an activity for building your own interactive Google logo. I showed this to my 11-year-old daughter a couple of days ago. I said, can you try this out and critique it for me? She wasn't as excited about it as I was. I thought she would be, but maybe other kids will. So this is one I'm recommending people try out. The cool thing about this is you can sort it by grade, kind of ability level, whether at any grade, whether they're a beginner or they feel comfortable with this kind of stuff. You can sort it by whether you're using a computer, an Android tablet, an iPad, whether you have poor or no internet, or no computers at all. So there are Hour of Code activities that you can do without computers, which is a good thing. You can sort by topic. Most of them are self-led, but some of them come with lesson plans. So if you can do it in the classroom, they'll have a lesson plan to help guide you through the whole thing. Then most of them tend to be 1 hour in length. A lot of them have follow-up, and some of them can take a few hours to do. It kind of depends. And then you have options of blocks and typing, which is most of them are blocks, some of them are typing, and then there's some other kinds of mix up with the blocks and the typing. And so generally I recommend starting off with the block stuff, but I've had 5th, 4th graders who have never coded before sit down and type code based on the self-led tutorials. So kids are pretty good at grabbing this stuff and going with it. I find they do a better job than some of my older students. We'll come back to that. Let's check out the how-to section next. So often I'll share, they have other videos on the site, but this is a great one on how to run an hour of code. They have some other short promotional videos that you can send out to people or post. So this how-to kind of just gives an overview, pretty much what I'm doing here, promotion and planning with technology needs. And so we'll get back to that stuff later. So this is a page I come back to often when I'm getting ready. Let's check out promotes. A lot of the stuff on the how-to page is also on the promote page. So they help you share it on Facebook or Twitter here by just giving you a preset post that you can then write a message to if you have a Facebook site that you use for school. I don't tend to use Twitter. I cannot remember my Twitter login, so I'm not going to try that one there. They have an email already written up that you can go tweak for sending out to your school. They have another one if you're having a company that's non-school that you want to work with. How to recruit to get help to do it. And then there's another page of posters, banners, stickers, videos, and more. And another one for getting an elected official to come. I haven't gone for that one yet. So down here under part 4, promote, check out posters, banners, stickers, videos, and more. So it links back to the how-to guide, the things you want to think about when you're planning your event. And for now, I sometimes I'll send these out to families, but again, each of these are a 2-page color printout. I think it's a bit much to send to every kid. But if it's just one class that you're sending it out to, it's not too bad to do that. If you want to kind of get parents interested in it too, they have some good videos here that you can just send out links to in an email out to parents. So those are pretty good there. Got a Miami Heat basketball player, former President Obama. And then they have just a whole bunch of posters with famous, semi-famous people on them that just talk about why would you do Hour of Code. And so those are things you could post around your classroom or send out to other teachers to just try and get their attention. These are bigger posters here. And then these were some of those slides I had on my homepage that just give some statistics about people in coding. So those are ones I send out to people I'm trying to get interested in participating, and I use when I'm giving my intro to Hour of Code, but I wouldn't necessarily send those out to parents. So they have a whole bunch of different posters and flyers. Some of them are designed to be used in social media. Some of them are designed, down here, sorry, and some of them are designed to be printed out and hung up at schools and classrooms. Further down, they have a logo that you can use and attach to any mailings that you send out, whether it's print or digital. Some important things about it, Hour of Code is a trademarked thing, and so whenever you put it out, you have to make sure it's clear it's not your Hour of Code, it's the Hour of Code, and you're just a participant in it. So for example, on my website, every time I mentioned Hour of Code, I have the trademark symbol next to it, just to note about it. I should probably enhance this a little more, where every time I say Hour of Code, I actually link to that site. But at the very least, they require you put the trademark note by that, so it's clear it's theirs and not yours, because they do have that trademarked. For years, I've been doing it and not putting that in there, and nobody at Hour of Code has yelled at me and said, hey, you're not following the right rules. But this year, I'm trying to be a more responsible participant in Hour of Code. And one thing I've noticed is Facebook works on this, Disney works on this, Google works on this, Microsoft works on this, and usually what they have is it's one of their employee spokespersons that does a little video about what you're going to do, and almost all of them have a disclaimer in there that says, by the way, you're doing Microsoft stuff or you're doing Google stuff. Please use our logo responsibly. It's not your logo, it's ours. And be nice when you do this stuff. Be kind to others. It's pretty interesting. But for school kids, you know, it's a good thing to see. And for my students at the college who still struggle with plagiarism and copyright, it's a good thing for them to think about all the time. Because there's all this stuff on the internet. Why can't I just grab that and take it and use it? And it turns out almost everything out there is not yours to take and use, and even though it's easy to do so. All right, so do you have any questions yet? Not yet, okay. So have you done any coding before?
Just very little with that Tinker.
Okay, just with the Tinker, all right. So just an overview. So the way these workshops are gonna be structured is the beginning of each one, I'm just going to remind about like why we should bother doing an hour of code. But if you're here, I think you have a good idea why. Resources available, the big ones are the activities, the how-to guide, and the marketing. And those are right here. Activities, how-to guide, and the marketing. They're easy to get to just from hourofcode.com. And otherwise, we're just going to play around with activities, and so I'm just going to, talk to people and try and figure out which activities you should try, and then as you work on them, I'm here to help guide you through them if you get stuck on anything. And after we do at least a few activities, then we'll start planning for whatever event you're going to do, and talk about the style of the event, things you want to do ahead of time, and how to get helpers for it. Okay, so anybody watching this video in the future, get in touch with me if you need help. I'll see you soon.